And that's all I wanted to do. And then, unfortunately, my parents, they got divorced when I was about 7 or 8. So I didn't ride for several years until my mom met my stepdad, Shad, and he had a Yamaha Warrior, like a quad.
Yeah.
And so we just went riding in the woods. I had a KX60 at the time. And
you straight up, no quads, no dirt bikes, nothing for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah, just
wow.
didn't have anybody to take me, for one.
Yeah, yep.
My grandpa took me a little bit before they had gotten divorced. But
right.
yeah, once they got divorced, it was... But honestly, I cared because I wanted to ride, but I played baseball. Like, I was so into baseball during the summers, and then the winter months, like I said, it was snowing, so you didn't even think about it.
Right.
But yeah, then once I got back into it, it's funny when I look back at some tapes. So my mom used to video every race. So
okay.
There's races of me on a KX60 or a little CR80. Like, I was so bad. Like, I wish I just want to like play it on a big screen at Lens for the parents and be like, look how bad I was, but now I've done okay, you know? So
you weren't like terrible. Local prodigy at this point.
Way.
You're not winning.
No, not even close. I would get lapped on the local level.
That's Justin Brayton. And look, obviously, when you knew that myself, Jason Wygant, when I started a podcast on my own, you knew that Brayton was on the guest list. Come on. Brayton's my guy. Partially because Brayton is located in the North Carolina area, such as I am, and we run into each other quite a bit. In this case, he's down training at Club MX. I took a trip down there. Club MX, primarily big on the amateur scene. It's one of those big training facilities where all the riders prepare, specifically right now for the Rocky Mountain ATV-MC Amateur National at Loretta Lynn's Ranch. But there are some pros that ride there as well, including our buddy Phil Nicoletti, who I carpooled with, and by carpooling, he drove both ways. I did nothing. So that's not even carpooling. That's just car stealing or borrowing. I just went down there with Filthy. And while I was there to watch Filthy ride, I wanted to catch up with young GEICO Honda rider Cameron McAdoo. There was Brayton. So why not get the inevitable Brayton podcast interview that you knew I was going to do out of the way? And my real goal here was not to talk about Justin Brayton, about winning at Daytona or doing well this year or being good for being old. Those things have been talked about 1,000 times this year. I wanted to get the actual story of how did Justin Brayton get started in motocross? Because all we know is it's not the same start that everybody else has. And it was, by the way, quite the contrast to talk about this with Brayton while in one of the garages, while watching all these young hotshots get ready for Loretta's, riding their 85s. Because Brayton did not do anything like that whatsoever when he was their age. So a nice irony there. So in this episode of the Race Direct Exhaust podcast, we'll talk to Justin Brayton, Cameron McAdoo, who's actually somewhat Brayton's little protege. He comes in and out of the conversation as well. And then I'll have a longer interview with McAdoo at the end. As always, I try to keep these things raw. It's just me and Brayton and McAdoo sitting in one of the bike garages at Club MX. This is not a studio, so if you want to complain about the audio quality, go ahead. You're not going to get the same candid info that way. I could probably invest in more audio equipment, but I don't even want to invest in Filthy Phil's gas money to get down there, so come on. As always, these podcasts brought to you by Yoshimura. 63 years of research and development, whatever you need for your four-stroke exhaust, be it an ATV, a street bike, a dirt bike. You could probably rig up some cool Yoshimura pipes on your lawnmower. I should do that. Yoshimura's got it. Check them out, yoshimura-rd.com. That's research and development. And, of course, RacerX brand. That's our clothing and accessories line. Check it out, racerxbrand.com. And because you know I'm cheap, I would not endorse products that are very expensive. Okay, the Yosh product, you get what you pay for. It's a high-quality item. I'm not going to endorse a sponsor saying that their product is cheap. But what I am going to do is give you a discount on RacerX brand, RacerX wear items right now. So when you go to racerxbrand.com, shop for the shirts, the hats, the hoodies, the cool stuff, the bags. Shop for the stuff you want. It's all good. I especially recommend the Damon Bradshaw shirt. Oh, it's sold out. It's sold out. I told you folks to get that one, the Retro High Point one. That's the bad news. That shirt sold out. The good news, I have a promo code now. My first promo code, you never forget your first, all capitals, spell out the word exhaust in all capital letters on checkout, and I will give you 20% off. 20% off. You know I'm cheap, bro. I got pants recently, fly racing pants. On the back of them, the butt patch says El Chupacabra. Big thanks to my buddy Randy for hooking that up. I'm El Chupacabra. I'm giving you 20% off. RacerX brand clothing and accessories, bags, hats, all that. So there's your promo code, exhaust, all caps. Please do that. do not use the promo code that would give you the same percentage off for Mathis's dumb shows and podcasts. Do not do that. Use the exhaust one. We want to win, baby. And RacerX itself. RacerX Illustrated is a magazine. I highly recommend that you subscribe. $20 for the print, $10 if you want it digitally, a few more bucks if you want both. Exclusive stories that you won't get anywhere else, including the latest issue where I have a long and in-depth interview and talk with Brock Tickle and some of the people around him about his current situation. But for now, we're talking audio, and if you're thinking audio and you're talking audio, you might as well listen to some great audio that goes something like this. Podcast, 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 podcast. Yeah. So let's get to it. Justin Brayton, doing some motos, just getting back into things. He took 7 weeks off of riding the motorcycle, said it made him go crazy. Newsflash, he no longer races Lucas Oil Pro Motocross. His season actually basically goes now from September through May. He races a bunch of off-season Supercross races. But what's interesting is there might never be another actual motocross race that Justin Brayton does. It's probably going to be all Supercross type races from now through the end of his career. Maybe some one-off motocross here and there. But that's the roots of it. So even if you're Justin Brayton and you're looking to get back on the motorcycle for the first time in almost 2 months, you hit the moto track. And he's out there doing motos with Filthy Phil, McAdoo, and all the other hot up-and-coming amateur kids down there at Club MX. And by the way, he's still super fast. He and Phil were kind of battling, so you get an idea where he is speed-wise. But even Brayton, who's like a training fiend, even he gets tired after 7 weeks on the bike. He said he was way out of shape when he just got into it again last week. So it's amazing at this level how strong you have to be and how fit you have to be all the time. And you can't even take a couple weeks off. The base goes away. We're talking 1 percentile here. So here is the podcast you inevitably knew I would do with Justin Brayton, starting with the very obvious first question. Is you're not even racing outdoors and you're not even supposed to race for several more months. Why are you even bothering to line up under heat and humidity and log gnarly sand track motos at Club MX?
I miss it. I miss the grind, the motos. I miss riding, being around all my friends in the industry. And my favorite part of all this, of racing, is the process, the weekly process of trying to get better. And so I'm kind of just doing that. I started riding about 2.5 weeks ago consistently down here at Club, riding with McAdoo and Nicoletti and the boys. So, and when I first started riding, I was so far off. I was like out of shape and hadn't ridden outdoors in a while, so the angles of the turns are different, your lean angle and everything. So getting back in the swing of things now, and I just love it. I love riding. I mean, I'm going to be 50 years old, and I'll still be riding. I just love it.
Yeah, that's weird because that's the work part for a lot of people. It's what they have to do. But coming in here and working, you're not getting paid to be here today. You're not getting trophies, accolades, anything. That's the part you actually like.
I love it. I really do. Like I said, I just really like riding.
Yeah.
And the parts that, the reason I don't do outdoors is mainly just to get a break from for one, all the travel, so I can spend more time with my family.
Yeah.
But for two, it's just the mental grind, having to perform. Like, I'm here today. I did a full day of motos with the guys, but I don't have to be the fastest guy. I don't have to be out there racing Phil or McAdoo. Like, I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to be anybody today.
Yeah.
And if I want to do the 30-minute moto, I can. If I don't want to, there's such a choice. So mentally, it frees me up. It gives me a break. Where if I was in the grind right now, I would want to and need to show up and be the best guy today. And then I'd be going, to Millville in a couple weeks, having to perform. And you can only do that for so long, I feel like. And it's not like Saturday is the only day that we have to perform. It's a weekly thing now. It's 3 or 4 days a week, and that's what I kind of want to break from or needed to break from. But the riding part and the training part, I love that.
McAdoo, come over here if you can. We're gonna get the perspective.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like the little protege. You guys are from similar area, even.
We're both from Iowa, and it's been really fun, actually. I've kind of, I don't want to say taking him under my wing, but I like to give feedback or advice. And one day down here at club, it's been several years ago, we met, and just been a big fan ever since. I see what he can do during the week, and not many people have got to see that on the weekend, and I'm excited for him to get more races under his belt and get to show what I've seen for a long time.
Yeah, so how weird is that? You both are from a similar area, but that was not why you both ended up here. Did you even know each other or anything?
I knew JB when I came down, obviously.
But just of him?
Yeah, exactly. But we didn't really know each other like on a, name-to-name basis, and we really didn't until probably a year and a half after I lived down here. He could probably tell the story better, but we were sitting online and he saw like stickers on my bike. It was from around local, and he started questioning about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. He was, you're on Cowie's, right?
Yeah.
And we were lined up. I had been doing motos with him for weeks,
right?
But I was on JGR, so I'd drive down, and I always remember him just because he was so fast, but never really talked to him that much, and I would just kind of do my own thing. He would do his own, and we're lined up next to each other before moto, and I see, I think it was Yankton Motorsports on his bike, and I'm like, that's kind of from back in my area. So I'm like, hey, where are you from? He's like, I'm from Iowa. And I felt so stupid because he was so good. He was like doing good at amateur races. I'm like, I'm so out of the loop.
Should have been paying attention.
Yeah, I should have been paying attention. But I've been a huge fan ever since. And like I said, there's been so many times down here that he's so good. And honestly, it reminds me of Shane McAdoo. When Shane was down here, I was on Factory Honda. Shane had clapped out bikes, and he would just be pinning it and going so fast. And same thing with McAdoo several years ago. No, he was so fast, and now he's getting his chance to prove it on the weekends.
So you like this training part, the work part, and that's kind of what I heard of you. Like the work, you're all about the work. So all I hear is like some cross between like Rambo and Rocky, like your Stallone film. You enjoy this grind part.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that I'm so gnarly, but I do enjoy the grind, and I think if you can enjoy the grind, that's one of the biggest parts of it, and to do it for a long time. Like a guy like JB, for instance, like he's grinded out since he was young. He's 34 and it's his first year not doing outdoors.
Right.
I look up to that a lot, and I really want to, kind of do something similar to that. Like I want to have longevity, and I feel like I can if I start a good base young, which I feel like I have, and just grind it out during the week, and here soon it's going to show on the weekends.
Well, you kind of got hosed here because you got the ride and you've been hurt a lot of it. So it's probably hard to not panic and be like, I have every weekend. This is it. I've got, 6 months or 1 year to show to the rest of the world what I've got for life. But you get a lot of runway. It might not work out this first time. It seems destined to work. But in your case, it worked out, who knows, years later than you maybe desperately wanted it to.
Yeah, totally. I mean, for sure it's tough because he's gotten this great opportunity with GEICO Honda, and then he's been injured a lot, so he hasn't been able to prove himself. So the biggest thing, that I would say is just be patient. He's so young.
Yeah.
I hadn't even raced a Supercross when I was his age, so that just kind of puts it into perspective. But our sport is very tough. It's you kind of get your one shot and then you're out. But I think guys like Cameron or myself that are really respectful and nice guys off the track, you continue to get opportunities but when you do get those opportunities, you have to take advantage of them. And it's like I said earlier, I can't wait for guys to see what Cameron does during the week, that he can do that on the weekend and go that speed, and it's world-class speed, man. There's days when I was at the top of my game outdoors getting top fives, he would wax me on the sand track, and I'll never forget those days. So it's in there. It's just, as you know, it just takes confidence and takes time at the races. It's so much different being there and having those stresses and things. So he'll get there for sure.
Bro, you were hanging it out today. Like, is that normal for you? Did you even feel like you were hanging out? It looked cool, but I don't know, maybe that's just normal riding for you.
I honestly, that's kind of how I should be riding. Mm-hmm. For me, that's my way, and I really haven't had that for quite a while now. And
I see.
Just honestly, probably in the last week or two is when it's started to kind of come together, and I'm figuring out the bike and stuff, and so I really feel like I'm starting to come back to form and to note back on like what you said, where I've just been injured a lot, but I don't want to say I got hosed or have got unlucky. Like,
okay.
It's my, you know, it's part of it. I did it, you know. So I think I want to just take full responsibility, and I've had a chance with, you know, one of the best teams in the paddock, and I'm going to take advantage of what I have left of that this year, and move on. And so I'm just happy to be back at the races and racing every weekend and actually experiencing what pro late racing's like. You know, and until this last few weeks, I'd only done 3 pro races in a row ever. So
Wow.
And this is basically like my rookie outdoor year. I only got a few motos, you know, at Hangtown and then first moto at Glen Helen, and I got injured last year. So, you know, I take responsibility of it, and we learn from it. So.
So you're not like super angry the whole time.
No, I mean, obviously after it happened so many times consecutively at about the worst times it could have, it was like, it was the hardest thing ever to swallow that pill. But guys like JB and Brandon and everyone here have really just kind of helped me get through it and just be like, hey man, like, you know, don't feel bad for yourself and push on, and that's all you can do. So
I mean, this Daytona win, like, that's the whole thing. Like 5 years ago, you're like, all right, Brayton's on top of his game. This is the time. It's now or never. It's not going to happen. And who knew that you had 5 more years in you and you were going to keep getting better? It's really hard to predict how these things are going to go.
Yeah, totally. I just think it's like anything. If you keep grinding and keep believing enough, you know, you can achieve great things. And for me, age it's been so talked about. And even when I think about it, I'm like, man, 34, it's pretty old. But I don't feel that old. I feel like I did 10 years ago, and but with more experience, and which I think helps on the weekend. So now I know how to manage things better. I mean, even rookies coming in, like just the traveling, like how to manage the travel and not get sick and know your body. So there's so many things that are positives in our sport that late 20s or early 30s is kind of better to be, rather than be 16 out there trying to make it happen.
We'll get cleaned up. I'm going to ask him about his background, and then I'll circle back to you. Or if you got to ask something here. Was this real business going to happen? Okay. That's why you walk in at first, and I'm like, this is raw. You got moto questions, it's even better. Just hanging out. So your background is, I've been really fascinated by, there's these places now, these facilities, many of them, there's opportunities for people at a very young age to come and really get it right, which didn't really even exist when I was a kid, probably not when you were a kid. So you didn't take that route at all.
No.
But it still worked out. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, the route that I took. I mean, it really wasn't by choice. I mean, I grew up in Iowa, so obviously you can't ride for 5 or 6 months out of the year, other than going to some indoor.
I just didn't want to interrupt you. Sorry.
Other than going to some arena crosses, but you know, we'd go to Des Moines Arena Cross in November. Then we'd hit like Milwaukee, Rockford, Illinois had one. Guthrie, Oklahoma. So maybe race 4 or 5 times during the winter. But
These
that would be like
indoors.
once a month. Yeah, they'd be indoors.
Yeah.
And it's funny looking back on that. I never even thought twice about, man, I haven't ridden in 4 weeks, but let's go race. And I hadn't trained, hadn't done anything. It's like, you're just a kid, you know? Mm-hmm. So, and then during the summer months, there's so many fair races around us that I would race Saturday night fair races all the time. And so I think that's why my skills are better, I guess, in Supercross, or it comes easier because I raced tighter stuff pretty much my whole life since I was on 80s. But yeah, raced arena cross a little bit. Then the summer months, we didn't really chase the amateur nationals like most guys did for a few reasons. Mainly, we didn't have the money to travel that much. And I wasn't that good. I wasn't good enough to go there and win or make a statement. So we raced a lot of local stuff, and once I got on, you know, got better on 80s, and then we got on big bikes. We obviously did the Loretta Lynn's thing, and and then it was just Des Moines Arena Cross was a local race, and it was in November, and I was a senior in high school, and we said, let's go race, let's make it our first pro race, and had some help from some local shops, Storm Lake Honda, and but my motorcycles were literally bone stock. I tell the story all the time, but I'm not kidding. The suspension was bone stock. And we went there and raced, and I did really well. I was fastest in practice. I won the heat race. I actually passed Bradshaw. Him and I were joking about it a few weeks ago. And that was my first pro race, was battling with Damon Bradshaw.
Wow. Did he try to break your legs?
He didn't, but
okay.
I don't think he liked me after that. And I mentioned that to him, and he was like, no, it was fine. But yeah, my first pro race.
He probably didn't.
No,
knowing Bradshaw, he probably didn't like you.
Yeah. So yeah, he actually passed me in that race, and I passed him back for the win. And then the main event, I led for a while, and I got so tired. I mean, I didn't really train then or know anything about training, or I think I got 6th or 7th. So that really opened a lot of people's eyes as far as teams, manufacturers, gear companies, and then also it opened my eyes to like, wait, these guys aren't that good. Like I'm as good as them on lesser equipment. So and then one thing started leading to another as far as the pro ranks go, and probably the biggest crossroads to being successful was meeting Buddy Antunez. He kind of took me under his wing and helped me meet a lot of people, helped me get a fill-in ride at what is now GEICO Honda, and just kept rolling. I will say that I got a few chances. I mean, nowadays I look at it, and guys, some guys even get top 10 outdoors or top 10s in Supercross, and they're out because they didn't win or they didn't get to podiums. But me, it took me a while, and I think in our sport, like some of these amateur kids, for one, they get deals too young, but for two, they don't give them a chance to really be successful. You know, you got 1 year as a pro. So I think the way I did it was a lot better. If I would have turned 16, I would have been spit out the back real soon. I wasn't ready to race pro at that level. So when I was 23, I was ready for it, and that's kind of in a nutshell how it all happened.
But how did you get started on dirt bikes in the first place? Did your family, were they into it at all?
Yeah. My dad raced, so I got a little Z50 when I was 3 years old for Christmas, and I started racing when I was 4 at a local fairgrounds. Mm-hmm. But that's all I watched on TV. I mean, I'll never forget watching the Bradshaw Matasevich battles.
Oh, yeah.
And old school stuff that I just 24/7 I watched it on TV. I'd have my parents record it on a VCR. A lot of kids probably don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
but
I did the same thing, but we're old now,
Yeah. So, and that's all I wanted to do. And then, unfortunately, my parents, they got divorced when I was about 7 or 8. So I didn't ride for several years until my mom met my stepdad, Shad, and he had a Yamaha Warrior, like a quad.
Yeah.
And so we just went riding in the woods. I had a KX60 at the time. And
you straight up, no quads, no dirt bikes, nothing for a couple of years. Yeah. Straight up.
Yeah, just didn't have anybody to take me for one.
Yeah, yep.
My grandpa took me a little bit before they had gotten divorced, but once they got divorced, it was. But honestly, I cared because I wanted to ride, but I played baseball. Like I was so into baseball during the summers, and then the winter months, like I said, it was snowing, so you didn't even think about it.
Right.
But yeah, then once I got back into it, it's funny when I look back at some tapes. So my mom used to video every race. So there's races of me on a KX60 or a little CR80. Like I was so bad. Like I wish I just want to like play it on a big screen at Lens for the parents and be like, look how bad I was, but now I've done okay, you know? So
you weren't like terrible. Local prodigy at this point.
No way.
You're not winning.
No, not even close. I would get lapped on the local level.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were just sticking with it merely because you liked it.
I loved
not
it.
because you're I have some talent. I got to quicker.
It wasn't that at all. I just loved riding, and it hasn't changed. That's like why I'm here today, you know. But I just purely loved it, and then I did start to get better. Obviously, the more you do something, the better you're going to get. But I can vividly remember one day, I rode with Teddy Mayer quite a bit, and he had a track that had a lot of big jumps, and he was a Team Green rider on KX60s and 80s, and he was like the man. I mean, he would lap me at a local race. And I never did a single jump on his track. They were big. I remember thinking he was the man because he was jumping all of them on a 60, and I didn't do them for a long time, for probably a year or so, and then one day I did them all. And for some reason that day, it just started clicking, and it was like I got confidence and started to get better and better and better. And then next thing you know, I was winning local races. And then I think 2 years after that, I got 4th at Loretta Lynn's in the 80, 12, 13 class.
So these, in the winter, we would just do arena cross, and we would do fair races, like you said earlier. Were you at least winning or at the top
when I first went to 80, or like when I was on 80s, I was starting to win.
I see.
When I was about 13 or 14, I started to win.
Gotcha. So you got back into it was like on 60s.
Yeah.
and it took through the kind of end of 80s-ish when you were a local fast guy, but still not thinking you were good enough to really pursue it.
No, my first year at Loretta's, and really the only reason I got fourth that year was because it was a mudder, and I was pretty big on an 80.
Yeah.
And I think I went like 8, 4, 7, for fourth or something like that.
Right.
So it looked a lot better on paper than it really was.
So it wasn't enough for you to be like, okay, I'm in, I'm going to be a pro.
No, it wasn't even close, no.
Wow.
And even through schoolboy class and 125B and all that, like I'd win everything on a local level. But Loretta's, I was just off. I wasn't one of the guys. So I was just out of the range of guys like Josh Hansen. I was in that group, and, he had the factory rod and all that. And then, never once were we like, I'm gonna be a pro supercross racer, and it never crossed my mind or my parents' mind.
Yeah. So really, what kind of effort were you putting in? Like, were you riding much during the week? Were you training? What kind of bikes did you have? I mean, the effort must have been that crazy.
No, there was definitely a point where we were putting in a lot of effort, but purely because I liked it, and we enjoyed as a family going racing on the weekends. I mean, we went racing almost every weekend during the summer.
Oh, okay.
And my parents liked it. It brought us all closer. And I was winning on a local level, and that's fun to go to races around Illinois or Missouri or go up to Millville and win the race. Like it's fun, and I think it's just one of them things. Now being a parent, like if my kids really like something and they're pretty good at it, you probably pursue that just because they're enjoying it. And but it did get expensive. I mean, I remember we had a motor home and trailer, and my parents would take off work to go racing, and it was, it's definitely a financial burden. I don't kind of stress that all the time to kids to be more thankful, because it's now being a parent and obviously having to pay bills and stuff. It's like, just can't imagine what my parents went through. Every penny we had was to go to racing.
So your stepdad, did he have any background in it?
No background.
He just liked it though?
Just liked it, yeah. He's from Oklahoma. He was a really good baseball player all growing up, and so that was kind of his thing.
Yeah.
And then, and kind of was my thing for a while too. I really enjoyed baseball, but like I said, he had a Yamaha four-wheeler that we would ride together every now and again. And then once I got a little more serious, he sold that. And he taught himself how to work on bikes, how to do everything. And,
wow.
And I mean, now he's obviously into it and loves it. And, but yeah, when they met, he knew nothing about it.
Okay, so your thing about training, you always seem to enjoy that. Mm-hmm. Did you already sense that back then, that you liked the work part of it?
I kind of did, because I was big into wrestling too. So my winter thing back there, I wrestled.
Okay.
And I loved that work. I loved having to cut weight. I just loved that kind of process.
Yeah.
And
that would be pretty structured, I would think.
Yeah, super structured. But I hated the meets. I hated that, like that stress and anxiety. And that's why I think for so long, when I first turned pro, seemed like at the practice track I could do one thing, and at the races would be a whole different guy. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to kind of my childhood. I was kind of the same way. I was a good wrestler, but sometimes at the wrestling meets I'd get such bad anxiety.
Yep.
And then going back to my first pro race, in practice I got behind Denny Stevenson, and I just started throwing up in my helmet because I was so nervous, because that was Denny Stevenson I was behind.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had to work on that, and still continue to work on that today, but I've gotten so much better at it. I've tried to race anything and everything when I was younger. Like when I first turned pro, I'd go to Europe and race Bercy, and I tried to just race because I knew that's what I needed to get better at. But yeah, I like that process of training. I love how you make gains, and the harder you work, it's really, really simple. The harder you work, the better in shape you are. The more you work on your technique, the better form you're going to have. And I love that. Like, you can't hide from anybody on Saturday night if you haven't put in the work.
Do you think that's part of the reason you've got some of these opportunities? Because I'm sure if a team is watching, A, how well you can ride during the week, even if they're not getting on Saturday, and how willing you are to put in the effort, they have to kind of roll out a little more red carpet.
Yeah,
I
think so.
This guy's going to figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely in the very beginning, the teams where I've signed with, actually most of my career, every team I've signed with, it seems like I've been the B guy. Mm-hmm. But by the time I leave that team, or the year later, or 2 years later, I'm kind of the A guy, or I've beaten their A guy. So, and that just comes from work ethic and riding with that A guy, or just determination, I guess. But yeah, I would say every team I've been on, they would say that it wasn't for lack of trying. I mean, I put in every ounce of effort I have. And sometimes that has hurt me because I've trained too hard.
Yeah.
Where now that's being a little bit older, I kind of know how to balance that. And now being a parent, as you know, you really have to learn to balance it. So I've learned that over the years, but for sure teams have given me more opportunities and maybe another chance because I've worked so hard.
Have you had people through time try to tell you to relax, like, hey, do less? In most sports, you think the coach or the manager's job is to fire people up. But have you had people try to do the opposite with you?
Yeah, for sure. Even when I was at JGR, I remember having talked with J-Bone and Coy, because that was kind of the time when I was really getting into mountain biking. All the guys on the team mountain biked, and I was really getting into it. And I probably did ride mountain bikes too much, but I still was doing all my stuff on the motorcycle, but I was just doing extra stuff on the mountain bike that I probably shouldn't have been doing. And but that's just through learning. And I was in killer shape, but I probably didn't manage it that well. So there's definitely been teams where there's a certain time to back off, and they've talked to me about that.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a mental thing too. If I'm backing off, I feel like other people are doing other things. It's probably a little bit of insecurities or whatever it is that you just think someone else is doing more. Now that I've gotten closer with, or know, I guess, what other guys do and training-wise, it's not really the case. So there was years that I look back on, I'm like, man, I trained my butt off that year. I didn't need to train that hard.
Yeah, but I could see where that would happen for you, because if you were a guy that was winning everything since age 8, you'd be like, you know what, I'm pretty sure I got this.
Yeah.
But you were trying to figure out your way and figure out your path. You didn't have anything to assure yourself, oh, on the weekend I'll be good.
Yeah.
So the only thing you can do is just bury yourself in the work and then hope, well, that's got to be the best route, right?
Yeah. And a lot of it, too, is I never won Loretta's or never won any amateur national or anything like that. So then I raced Supercross, and now I'm supposed to win or expected to win on the very biggest stage of any racing.
Right.
That's hard mentally because I wasn't used to that. So there's been times where I've had the speed, and there's been nights where I've been the fastest guy at the race, but sometimes, or most of the time, I just didn't quite put it together. I'd get second or third or whatever it is, and but I never won anything. And I think that's the hard part, is I'm racing these guys, the Villapotos and Dungies, they've won, they've done it. They've been a prodigy for a long time. Maybe Dungey wasn't, but Dungey knew how to win.
He started getting there pretty quick.
Yeah, he got there really quick. And so it's probably just a belief thing. And it's difficult, though. I mean, that's why it's really fun to help a guy like Cameron who is willing to learn. And I try to make it a little bit of there's no shortcuts, but just a shorter learning curve, I guess, from the stuff that I've been through. And I love that side of it. I love talking to other riders, and I love the 1%, I guess. When a guy's really good, how do you take him to the next level when there's 15 guys the same speed? So what do you do to get to that next level? And I love that. And I think I'm kind of a living version of that. Like, okay, this kid was never that good. Even when he turned pro, it wasn't that great. So how did I get to that next level? And there's been just stuff that I've tried and worked on and had great coaches and teams. And so I've kind of been maybe one of the only guys that has been a 20th place guy, a 10th place guy, and expected to win and won races. Maybe there's not another guy that has been at every aspect of racing. I remember days where I would show up to nationals my first couple of years and not even get points. I did the whole series one year for Moto World, and I got national number 86.
You did
That's terrible.
24 motos.
That's terrible.
24 motos. Like, full privateers are getting that in a handful of races.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I whole-shotted Washougal that year and went to 17th, like, bang.
Really?
Yeah, but once again, Paul Lindsay, the team manager, saw how hard I was working. I was obviously better at Supercross. He just kind of stuck with me, I guess. And then by the time I left there, I was a top 5 guy in Supercross, and then got a chance with KTM. And so yeah, I've been at every kind of phase of racing. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, a friend of mine from New Jersey, raced some pro, did all right at Loretta's, and so he raced some nationals. And I think his last race he said was like Steel City one year. And then he looks back on it when we come out with the vault years later, and he's like, I beat Brayton. It was like 22nd and 23rd.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. Yeah, so that is not a normal. No. You literally, as I say, you gained a lap of speed.
Pretty
you
much,
basically went from a lap down to battling a
And me and JT joke about it all the time. Like, when I started to get pretty good, me and JT would just battle. For,
really?
I don't even remember what place, but I mean, I've had years where, but JT was good. I mean, that was like the benchmark. I remember him and Clark Stiles. If I could be in that group, they were right around 10th to 15th or so. If I could be in that group, that was really good, but I was rarely in that group.
You did win a moto at Steel City.
I did.
You got a moto win.
Yeah, I got a moto win in 2009. That was my first year on the 450. And, I was actually talking the other day to a guy, and he's like, hey, how many moto podiums do you have outdoors? And I have more than I thought, actually. I don't remember the exact number, but for me to even get a top 10 at a national, coming from kind of what I thought I was, I guess, growing up, and then to get podiums overalls and to get podiums in motos. And somebody was talking about Southwick the other day, and it's crazy to think I got a moto podium at Southwick of all places. It's the gnarliest track of the year.
Not arena cross.
Not arena cross at all. So, and then I got second at Redbud overall one year. I believe Dungy won and Stewart got third. So, I mean, that's cool to look back on that. And then now to win Daytona, maybe the gnarliest Supercross of the year.
Yeah.
That's not arena cross.
No.
Definitely a different way of going about it, and different age to turn pro, and going all the way through high school. Definitely did it pretty unorthodox, but I'm kind of glad it all turned out the way it has.
Do you think you're more of a 450 guy, or is it just the ages you were in the 250 class, you were still figuring things out?
No, for sure, I'm more of a 450 guy. And I know Mathis loves to hear that when 250 guys say
everybody
that.
suits my style.
And everyone says that.
Everyone says that.
No, it was so true for me, because the year I remember talking to KTM after Supercross in 2009. I'm like, please let me race the 450 outdoors.
Right.
And I was like a 10th to 12th or 13th place guy on the 250.
Yeah.
And they let me race the 450, and instantly I was 6th, 7th, 8th, won a moto. So I got top 5 several times that year, and that was kind of like that's when I really started to get better at outdoors, when I had a chance at 450. And it was a lot more motivating, because the way I rode really would suit that bike. Once again, I know people say it all the time.
Yeah.
But, I think results kind of speak for themselves.
I know you've said a lot this year about how much better you are mentally and everything like that. I mean, is it literally like, it's one thing during the race. Do you feel like going to the airport, waking up the morning in the race, getting to sleep the night before the race, is it like that all encompassing, how much racing can and the nerves can take over your life?
For sure. I used to hate going to the races or even thinking about the race, because I would get so nervous.
Really?
And and I think a lot of guys do now, but just don't admit it, and maybe not seek help for it.
Yeah.
I really got some help for it, and saw, sports psychologists, and have a close friend of mine that's a psychology major, and he helps me all the time. And it's tough to be the best in the world at something, It's really mentally draining, and even being friends with guys like Jimmy Johnson, to hear stories about him, when he's going for his championships. It's no walk in the park. These guys aren't they're not robots, so it was really difficult at times. Now it's just stuff still creeps into my mind, or some anxieties and stuff, but I just know how to deal with it now. And then I'm not, it doesn't, I've said it a few times this year, but it doesn't define my results on the weekends, where when you're younger, you're just in that grind, you're in that kind of that rotation of, am I going to get a ride? Am I not? I got to beat this guy. I got to do this. It's like these have-tos, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. And that's really tough, because you're living year to year trying to make some money and trying to get this ride or trying to get this result. And it's really, really tough. One week you can be on top of the world. The next week you can literally be in the dumps, where now it's just more even keel for me. And I go to the race because I really enjoy it. To me, it's not about getting this ride or that ride. I have a great motorcycle and great team and great manufacturer. So now it's more for me about enjoying it with my family. Still working hard. Like I said, I love that process. And really doing what I love. I wouldn't change a thing where I'm at all. Or
even the way it worked,
the way it worked. It's awesome. I'm so thankful to be 34 and still be doing it. If I would have turned pro when I'm 16 and retired when I'm 26 or 27, honestly, I don't know what I would do, because that 6 weeks I took a break this year, I mean, I wish my wife was here to tell you, but I was going nuts. I'm like, it's really tough to wake up without a purpose.
Yeah.
Because you've woke up for so long with a purpose, and you can get better at something. And if you get better at something, it equals X, which is a result or money or whatever you're motivated by.
Yep.
Where it's hard to wake up and be like, all right, well, it's fun to hang out with the kids and it's fun to go to the beach, but I'm ready to, have a goal and have a reason for why I'm waking up. And now coming here, it's more to be fit and stay healthy and keep having fun. That's why I'm out here today. And I really, really love just riding dirt bikes.
Man, that's pretty cool. I think it's simply a matter of appreciation. Since Brayton had essentially no business getting to this level, I think he has a much greater appreciation now that he has. And now that he doesn't have to pay for bikes and he's making money and it's his job to go ride and train and race, you're going to go do it. I think it's the situation that frustrates all of us. I don't believe it happens that much in the sport anymore, but certainly when we grew up, we heard about these riders who had these great opportunities and squandered them. They were making a lot of money, and if they just put in a little more effort or had just put in some effort at all, they could have really succeeded. I don't feel like there's quite as much of that in the sport. It's much more structured now. Everyone has trainers, and that helps. The teams are more structured. It prevents the riders from just going off the reservation and partying all week. But I actually think what really helped is the sport went through the Great Recession like many did, and it prevented people from getting overpaid and having too much job security. I think that's weeded out a lot of the laziness in the sport. But still, Brayton is a much harder worker than most, and he's older than most, and he's still putting in that kind of effort. And I think that's from the full appreciation that he cannot believe that he got to the point where riding and racing became his job, and very lucrative one at that. So he doesn't take it for granted, and he actually enjoys doing that work part. And I know, look, myself, anyone else who's ever a fan of this, who ever dreamed of being a professional racer, I know you always told yourself, just as I did, oh, dude, if I had the shot, I would work so hard. I would be training harder than anybody. Well, Brayton's pretty much that, except it actually happened in reality. Now, in a moment, I'll get to a conversation with the young Justin Brayton, Cameron McAdoo, but I'll throw in another plug for our sponsors here at what I'd call halftime. That's Yoshimura Exhaust. Justin Brayton runs them on his Honda. Cameron McAdoo runs them on his. Multiple ones, because they got dual pipes. Check them out, yoshimura-rd.com. Everything you need for your dirt bike, your street bike, your ATV. They got 4-stroke exhaust, super dialed, and they're even made in the USA. Straight up made in the USA. Trump, don't tariff Yoshimura Exhaust, because they've already got the factory here. And also, racerxbrand.com, 20% off your orders there. Just type in exhaust, all caps, in the discount code line. Discount code line. I have dreams of such things. Now, let me get to the interview with Cameron McAdoo, who you might be saying, Cameron McAdoo? Yes, he is actually on the very powerful GEICO Honda team, but he has been very much under the radar his entire career, including his amateur career, which barely even existed until the very, very end when he got some attention. Was gifted a ride with MotoConcepts Smartop, now Bullfrog Spas Honda. Now, I know we've made fun of that team for a long time. It's the hot tub team. You got Mike Genova there with hot tubs in the pits. Blah, 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 blah. You got crazy Tony Alessi running the operation. But look, with the help of Brayton, the team has gained credibility. Obviously, the results have really improved since Brayton has now won a race. It's a pretty solid effort. And for young Cameron McAdoo, his career was saved. His career was built because of Mike Genova and Tony Alessi taking a chance on him and putting a amateur and 250 program together where they didn't have one. And then the GEICO Honda team snapped him up. But unfortunately, since then, he's pretty much been hurt the whole time. He was injured when GEICO took him from MotoConcepts as a replacement rider halfway through Supercross last year, but he was actually injured himself at the time. They thought he'd be back quick. He wasn't. Then he went into the Nationals last year, got hurt almost immediately, missed all of that, got hurt in an incident that was not his fault at the opening round of 250 SX East this year, then was getting ready to make a comeback in 250 SX East this year, and then got hurt again. Finally made it back a couple rounds into the Nationals this year. So he's still pretty much a rookie, judging by the amount of races he's run. And it seems like in nearly every moto he's been in so far, he either gets a bad start or someone crashes in front of him. and he's trying to come from the back. So even with what will essentially end up being about a season and a half, huge opportunity with the GEICO Honda, he's down to not too many races left to show what he has. Now, this guy's young. He's just getting started, so whether he's back on GEICO Honda next year or not, he's probably still going to get a shot with somebody, and you never know. This could end up being a Justin Brayton story of the future. And I even talked to the owner co-owner of GEICO Honda, Jeff Myshak, just recently talking about, is there a spot for McAdoo next year or not? They're not sure. It depends on how it works out with some of their other riders. And he's like, but I really see him being here it is, wait for it. He sees McAdoo being a Justin Brayton type of the future, just a quiet worker who just is going to keep getting better and better and better. So don't be surprised if you know exactly who Cameron McAdoo is somewhere down the road. But right now you're probably saying, yeah, I know there's this other guy that rides for GEICO Honda, but I don't know anything about him. Well, I'll give you the brief on him that I know. It was at the Daytona Ricky Carmichael Amateur Supercross a couple of years ago. Tony Alessi is there, and it was huge. I'm like, Tony Alessi back in an amateur race? Yes, we got Tony back in the amateurs. So I saw Tony, and I asked him what he's doing, and he's like, we're maybe going to do some kind of an amateur team here with MotoConcepts. Yeah, so we got this kid. His name is Cameron McAdoo, and that Faulkner guy. Yeah, so he beat him. And I'm like, wait, Tony, wait. He beat Austin Faulkner, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. They told me Faulkner's good, but we have a guy that beat him. So immediately I thought, Tony's back in the amateurs, and Tony's back to being crazy, and believe the hype. But then I actually watched some of the races, and indeed, Cameron McAdoo was hole-shotting Faulkner and even held him off a few times and even did beat him. Yes, it was actually true. It was the old Mike Alessi style, getting hole shots and holding off Faulkner as if Faulkner was Villopoto on Team Green way back in the day. And then, about 6 months later, he wins the Amateur All-Star class at Monster Energy Cup. Where did this dude come from? That's what's most intriguing about it. So I asked my questions there, and much like Justin Brayton, he was not a phenom superstar at a young age, but he's taking advantage of the opportunities he has. So let's get a little background on Cameron McAdoo.
I started racing when I was pretty young, and I stayed local in Iowa, and then when I was on 50s, like I chased some arena crosses and stuff like that, and I went to U.S. Open, and then we decided to start doing some outdoor stuff and trying for Loretta's, and it was actually my sister and I that raced together. And
oh, really?
She was always faster than me. She was 4 years older than me. And my first time actually qualifying for Loretta's, I was on a 65. I qualified as like a 6th alternate or something, and she had already qualified for Loretta's, so we were going no matter what. And so I was just pumped to go to Loretta's, and then from then on all the way up until schoolboy years and so forth, I would go to Loretta's pretty much every year, but I would be, maybe 25th place. Like, I went to school, I rode 5 months a year. I didn't, it was wintertime in Iowa. Like, I might, on my Christmas break, go down to Oklahoma and be stoked to ride for a couple of days, but that was about it. And then in 2014, actually the winter of 2013, I got a road bike, and I started, road biking at my house and on rollers and stuff, and thought I was training, and I was still going to high school and stuff, but then my mom one day came down in the basement and finally agreed to, because I always wanted to do the training facility deal and do the homeschooling thing, but she was never for it. It was like no, you're going to school and you're going to be, and we'll still race dirt bikes and stuff like that, but she kind of saw that I was starting to, maybe take it serious, and my dad was kind of always said he would let me do it and stuff like that, but it was my mom would just shut the door on that. So when she said that, I was like, heck yeah. So I finished my sophomore year of high school, which I had already taken so many classes that I was already finishing my junior year of high school, so I only had 1 year left, and the last day of school, I packed my stuff and came down to Club MX, and obviously throughout the end of the winter and into the spring, we checked around to all the training facilities, and this one just seemed like it would be the one that suited me the best. And once I got down here, it was actually just right during regionals time. Actually, I drove straight to a qualifier here, and then the following weekend I did a Southeast qualifier and actually made it to the res and stuff. And got thrown into the wolves. Like I came here directly mid Loretta's training, right off a high school desk, and it was crazy. Like I remember after the first week, I came in my camper and I told my mom, like, I really don't know if I can possibly do this. Like if my body can do this, because it was just, I mean, it felt like one thing after another. I would wake up, work out, go ride. I was doing all my bike work by myself. I'd work on my bike, come back, and my mom stayed with me for the first 2 weeks of coming down here to get me, acclimated to it.
Yeah.
And get me settled in. And I would eat a lunch and I'd fall asleep, and then 2:45 I'd wake up because it'd be 3 o'clock road bike ride, and then I'd get done with my road bike ride and I'd go back to sleep until dinner, and it was just like it was insane for me. But obviously
by the time you get to Loretta's, were you just smoked, or were you actually feeling stronger?
I was here for probably a month and a half or 2 months before Loretta's, and then finally I was starting to get better and stuff. But that was kind of just where it all started, and it just snowballed from there. And I've been here ever since, and I've kind of set up a little bit of a base here. I've got a house, and Duff's my practice mechanic along with Brayton, and Brayton. About 2015, actually, Brayton kind of tucked me under his wing a little bit, and noticed that he felt like I had some potential, and I didn't really have any help or support or anything. Before Daytona in 2016, I literally only thing I got for free was goggles, and that was because another rider here that was sponsored by 100% told Kuzo, "Hey, you should give this kid goggles. Like he's gonna be fast at mini O's," and that was the only sponsor I had. So. Then, I got
Your parents just bought bikes and
exactly. We bought stuff from a local dealer, and I think we got like 15% off of or whatever, 10% over cost, and that was what it was. And then 2016, I rode for MCR as an amateur, and Mike Genova kind of made that program / spot for me because he felt like.
But how did that I was telling a story earlier. I discovered you at Daytona and you were on the team, but you're saying the team was tires and graphics. So how did it get to that point?
Actually, like at Daytona, what it was like Mike had trained here for Supercross, and
right.
Mike Alessi, and he told his dad, like, "Hey, there's this kid and he's really fast. We should try and help him out." And then I was just gonna go to Daytona with my van and my mom and just whatever. And Tony's like called me, and I talked to him. He said, "Hey, we'll leave the semi there after the pro race, and we'll give you graphics and get you new tires and stuff, and get you all set up, and we'll give you a mechanic and whatnot. And if you want to go to Daytona and do that with us." And I was like, "Yeah, sign me up. Heck yeah, I'm in. Free tires." So
doing it
I
for
did
free
that.
tires.
Yeah, I did that, and then I went to Freestone, kind of on my own and stuff. Brandon and I went down there with Club Mex, and that was the following week. But things went well at Daytona, and that was where I actually first met Mike Genova, and I think that he gained a liking to me, and he felt like he could help me a lot, which he obviously did, and so he kind of made a amateur thing for me and Tanner Stack actually, and we did Mammoth with them, which wouldn't have even been possible for me to do without that team. Like, just financially, there's no way I could have done it. Then I did Loretta's and Monster Cup, and then after Monster Cup, I had no offers from any teams or anything. And
you won Monster Cup, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I won Monster Cup, and I still didn't have any offers or anything. So Genova, gave me the opportunity to race 250 East Coast Supercross in 2017 for him, and again, kind of created a spot for me, which obviously, that MCR is mostly a 450 only effort. And so I was so fortunate about that. And then, one thing after another. And then, I ended up here on GEICO.
That Loretta's year, you came in injured. Because now I was really paying attention. I'm like, this guy did well at Daytona. My story always tells that we saw Tony at Daytona. I'm like, oh my God, the Alessis are back as amateurs. And he immediately says that this unknown kid was beating Austin Forkner. And I'm like, Tony, stop with the tails. But then I looked, and you actually were getting hole shots, and you were beating him in motos. So Loretta's, I was pumped, but you were actually injured coming into there.
Yeah.
But right before that, before you got hurt, were you feeling it? Like, do you think you could have done some damage?
Yeah. To be honest, like that summer, I had already been training for a couple of years, and I was, we were grinding that summer, and I was coming in feeling like so good. I really had plans and didn't even really question whether I was going to go to Loretta's and really I felt like I was gonna win everything. Like that's how everything was going. And
Right.
everything was going perfect. And actually, it was the very last day of training before Loretta's. It was
Of course.
Tuesday before Loretta's, and I was gonna drive down there the following day, last moto, and I had a crash that was really dumb, and I broke 2 ribs and fractured my humerus. So it was, for the first couple days, I was like, man, I don't think it's even possible for me to race. But I started kind of like, I guess, moving around and somewhat feeling better. I'm like, this is all I got, you know, like this is my only chance and I have to do it. So I went there and had to do it, and that's what we did. And I just told myself it's 40 minutes a day that I have to suffer, and that's what we did. So yeah.
Yeah, you got some good starts, and you led a bit. I'm sure the pain starts kicking in after a while. But
Yeah.
you were going fast.
Yeah, like as I remember it was obviously a couple years ago, but yeah, I would start up front, and even the motos I didn't, like I had about maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes in me that I had like somewhat of strength in my shoulder, and I could actually ride hard. And after that, I could barely breathe because of my ribs, and I could barely hold on because of my shoulder, and it was just like survival mode. But I think I ended up with 3 moto podiums, and I led a lot of laps of the last moto, and had I thought that was going to be my moto win, but I had some little unfortunate things that happened that were kind of out of my control. But yeah, I did the very best I could, and that was all we could do.
Yeah, now, unfortunately, it's been injuries this year and a half so with GEICO, but you're saying it's not anything you had really dealt with before. It's not like you had been injured a ton when you were racing as a younger guy.
Yeah, like really through amateur stuff, like I really didn't have much of any injuries. Like that one at Loretta's, and you know, I've broken a collarbone here, and you know, like a finger, and like I just really didn't have anything crazy. And
Yeah.
and actually, it all springs back to even before I even raced Supercross. It started with I got hurt in November before racing Supercross for MCR. So
Okay.
I actually was somewhat still hurt when I went and did arena cross in January to get my points to even race Supercross. And then it's just like, yeah, I've gotten hit with it from every end of the spectrum. And I only raced 3 outdoor motos last year, which was Moto 1 and 2 at Hangtown, and then the first moto at Glen Helen. So, and then, you know, my Supercross season was obviously so short this year just because of what happened at round 1, and then, you know,
Which wasn't your fault, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess I could have been in a better position and been up front more, and that might not have happened, but whatever, we'll, you know, take it as it is. And I did race Tampa and Atlanta, but I was obviously injured, and then it was just too much. But so yeah, I only got 3 rounds of Supercross this year, and so right now, I mean, for outdoors, it's kind of like my rookie season, so I'm still learning everything. The only track that I've ridden up until now is Millville. So every one of these tracks I've never ridden in, and I'm just learning the traveling week in and week out, and the racing and the speed and stuff like that. So, but I feel like we're coming around, and we're gonna be able to show some of what we got in the rest of the season.
How hard is it not to put pressure on yourself and say, I need to whole shot and send it in one of these motos and just whip it and scrub and show everybody what I have, as opposed to take the long process, which is what it's supposed to be?
Yeah, it is, and it's not really in my I guess DNA to do that and hold back. And I don't feel like I've held back, but I want to race. You know, I got to race and race week in and week out. So.
Your instinct is to want to go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I'm more of that type of person, and I want to, you know, I want to do the very best I can every time. But I just need to get the experience, and I need to start up front. That's been my biggest issue, kind of, and so far in these first 4 rounds that I've raced of the season, that I'm not getting good starts and putting myself in a bad position and having to fight through the pack. So once we get some starts dialed, then I think there's a few other things, then we'll be right up front.
A team like that, I mean, at one point they have a guy going for the title and the point seed winning races. They've got you under there. Does it seem like everyone gets treated the same, whether it's a guy like you who didn't even race the first couple rounds and the other guys in the points lead? How does it all work?
Yeah, I think it does. You know, we've all got the same stuff. It's not, I don't feel like there's any favoritism at all, and the team works just as hard for me as they were for J-Mart, and that's pretty cool, honestly. And like, you know, after a moto, you can, if I get whatever I get, and you know that same questions that I get asked, J-Mark gets asked, and whatnot. So, and we're on the same engines. There's nothing. It doesn't feel like that there's any favoritism.
Does it help seeing JB's like long run and how it's still worked out? Does that help you a little bit when you're like, no, I just need to be patient?
Yeah, it does. It helps me, and I believe in the process. Like, I know that I'll always come every single day in the week and work my butt off. So I know that it's all going to come around full circle for me, and I don't question that at all. So and exactly just like JB, like, he's had such a long run, and it's impressive. It really is, and I look up to it. So I'd like to follow in those footsteps.
Okay, so that's a brief on Cameron McAdoo. Now, if the Moto gods are right, if they get the Exhaust podcast bump, maybe McAdoo will go out there, get a start at Millville, and show you what he's capable of. You know the rest of the guys on that team. Everybody knows Jeremy Martin, Christian Craig, Chase Sexton, RJ Hampshire. This is the other guy in there. What's cool about McAdoo, look, the guy's got to be under some pressure right now. He's nearly had 2 seasons with GEICO Honda. He's not been able to show what he has, and they don't know if they have room for him yet next year. So you got to figure, man, I had the chance of a lifetime, and I'm stressing. But during my conversations with him down there at Club MX, he said he's not allowing himself to stress on it because, dude, you have a great opportunity with as he said, the sickest team, the sickest bikes, all that. You want to at least enjoy it. If you just stress yourself over getting a ride next year, the races that you did have for them are going to be ruined. This is the dream, to have a ride like this. Don't blow it by just being worried about what's going to happen next year. Enjoy the moment that you're in, which is, I have the ride now. I don't know if I'll have the ride again, but I have the ride now. I better enjoy it and make the most of it. So I thought that was really refreshing. I would not be able to do that. If I was myself, if it were me in that position, I would just be freaking out all the time. But I'm the paranoid type. That's why I'm cheap, which is why I'm offering you a discount code. Exhaust, all caps, type it in. That's your discount code. Go to racerxbrand.com and get discounts on everything, the RacerX line. Check it out. Also, check out Yoshimura. Those pipes are on Cameron McAdoo's bikes and also on Justin Brayton's. Yoshimura-rd.com. That's our sponsor. Big thanks to you folks for listening. And I'm going to try to come up with some more cool stuff. We've got an off weekend coming up. I've got a lot of creative ideas in mind. Some different types of podcasts. We're going to go back to that. I've got a lot of riders in the last few weeks, but we're going to do some different things down the line as well. And hopefully you like it. So that's it for the show. By the way, how about the Nationals, man? Is this stuff not crazy? Is it not crazy? Eli Tomac is not the points leader? Does that make any sense at all? He's not hurt. He didn't crash out of any races. But he is no longer the points leader. And Marvin Musquin, who I was beginning to hear the whispers of the classic, Alton Baker, he's gotten too skinny, he's burned out, there's no longevity with that program. Yep, I was hearing those whispers after rounds 2 and 3 of the series, and now after round 7, Marvin is the points leader. Closer than he has ever been, actually, to a Premier Class championship right now. I don't believe he's ever been the points leader this late in the season in a 450 division. And if you're Eli Tomac, I'm telling you, I've done a lot of these podcasts now, and I'm noticing riders, including Brayton, Christian Craig, Cole Seeley, Ryan Dungey, they all talked about going to sports psychologist. I think Eli might want to go to one, not for performance anxiety, not to be able to perform better on the weekends. I'm talking anger management. The guy's got to be so pissed about the way these championships keep going. And this one, okay, yes, the second moto, maybe he could have done a little better than 9th, even with that gate pick. But the reason he's not on the points lead is because the bike broke. God, the guy's got to be frustrated. Every time it seems like it's going to be easy. We really thought that this time Eli Tomac had it fixed and there was not going to be any drama. Dude, this guy's going to have gray hair soon, the way these championship things go. So with the weekend off, we'll see what happens at Millville. Any bets that Eli comes out and is going like 9 seconds a lap faster than anyone else? Anyone want to place bets on that? He's a beast, especially on that track at Millville. He's going to be so mad. And I guess at some point, if it's really close between he and Marv for the championship right down to the wire, we're going to have everyone saying, oh, remember he owes Eli one from Supercross. And I'm bringing that up because, look, he's owed him since Foxborough, but he's had plenty of opportunities to get even with him. Clearly, that's not the game Tomac wants to play. And if you remember back to that Foxborough, incident with he and Marvin, he said on the podium with Jenny Taft, he was about to try to put the fear of God into Marvin. And he said, if those are the games he wants to play, he's gonna ... pause. I'm not going to do anything stupid. I think he caught himself and realized, no, I'm not getting into a cat and mouse game. I'm not taking people out, which could lead to my own undoing. Yes, I know he took Cooper Webb out at Daytona, but that was a heat race, and he felt that he was dirtied in that race, and he was angry in the moment. I don't think you're going to see Tomac slamming into Marvin, although I guarantee you, if the championship is close coming down to the wire, you're going to hear so many people saying that that's what's going to happen. I don't know. I mean, maybe desperate. If it's the last moto of the season, we saw what he did at Vegas. He did play some games at Dungey. Not dirty, but bunching. So we might see a strategy game at the very, very end. But I don't think you're going to see at Millville or Washougal, Unadilla, him aiming for the cases on Marvin a corner. Clearly, he's not hell-bent on revenge from Foxborough dirty riding. He's had plenty of chances to do it. He hasn't. But if the championship is close between them two, those two, did I say them two at the end? Yep, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get all kinds of drama between them. So this is an interesting national series, no doubt. One other thing I want to mention is awesome to hear all of these riders pumped on Motocross of Nations, like mega pumped, like begging to be on the team pumped, like Alex Martin saying, I'd ride a 450 if I have to, pumped. That's cool. And teams defending their honor. I went over and talked to the Yamaha guys, and they're all about having both Barcia and Plessinger on the team. Even a whisper of, hey, some of those guys that said no in years past, maybe they should just wait. Maybe they should just be alternates. What that means is they would like Barcia to be the main guy, and maybe Eli take a seat because Eli chose not to race the event the last couple of years. Just refreshing to hear teams being that all in, like fighting for spots and trying to use leverage to get their guy on the team this year. And that also includes the French team. Marvin and Dylan Ferrandis, they want to be on the French team badly. The French team manager was over at Redbud checking things out, and Ferrandis really wanted to win in front of him. Musquin was pumped to win in front of him, and then Alex Martin really wanted to beat Plessinger on this weekend at Redbud to prove that maybe at Redbud he's a better rider than Plessinger is. Just really refreshing for the first time in a long time to hear riders wanting to be on their Motocross of Nations team badly. And just to throw one more shrimp on the Barbie in there, Chad Reed's all over social media right now talking about how much he would love to race for Team Australia one more time and race Redbud Donations. Redbud Donations, that is peanut butter and jelly, that's chocolate into peanut butter. It's two great tastes that taste great together, and everyone wants to be a part of it. It's once in a lifetime. Maybe we need to have a couple donations at Redbud, so all the riders that really desperately want to do it will get their chance. Or we need to have a couple of other Team Puerto Ricos. What are some other U.S. territories? Guam? Can we have a Team Guam to get some other guys? Maybe that's how Jason Anderson will get to compete in the event. Because I don't know if there's going to be a spot for him after all on Team USA as badly as he wants it. Right now, I have to say, it's looking like Plessinger, Tomac, Barcia. We got a long way to go, man. Just think of how crazy this season has been. You never know. That's it for the show. Racer X Exhaust podcast brought to you by Yoshimura. See you next week.